Well, hello guys, how are we doing here? This is the second video of me showing my base in the game Satisfactory, which I will be showing my main bus design and the base design and some other topics. Through this base, I have completed the final object of the early access employee of the planet. I've also accumulated over 500 coupons after unlocking all the non-statue items. The base is currently producing 1.8 million Awesome Sync points per minute globally from all the overflow products on average, and it is also consuming at least 30,000 megawatts of electricity per minute. This is my first playthrough of the game, which lasts in total about 400 hours on update 4 of the early access in November 2021. I will use Pak Utility Mod to move around to showcase my base in the interest of time. And I apologize for the quality and frame rate of the video because of the limitation of my hardware. The basic concept for the layout of my main base is pretty straightforward. All the raw resources will first be processed outside of the main base in different processing facilities, usually close to the resource nodes around the world. Their products, which will often take less space than the raw material, will then be transferred back into the main base through the main bus. As you can see, all kinds of products, or I would call them secondary resources, are being transferred onto the main bus back into the main base. These secondary resources will then be pulled into different processing facilities perpendicular to the main bus to be used as inputs to be further processed. Their outputs will be transferred back onto the main bus for further usage. Let me show a few examples. Wires and steel pipes are being pulled from the main bus to build starters, and the starters are being sent back to the main bus. Iron rods and screws are being pulled from the main bus to build routers and, well, rotors. And then the rotors are being sent back to the main bus. Here, starters and rotors, which are built earlier, are being pulled from the main bus to build motors. And motors are being sent back to the main bus for later usage. When more production for a single product is needed, more facilities can be simply added to the end of the input line. Just like this. By the way, I'm using Smart Mod for quick building in case you didn't already know. When the inputs are not sufficient to sustain the production, there are only two possibilities, and they are easy to identify and solve. The first possibility is that more resources for this particular production need to be put onto the main bus, either through the existing bus line or through a new bus line if the old one is already fully occupied. In my case, I have two full Mark V belts for plastic to support the production in my main base. The second possibility is that a single line of input has reached its carrying limitation of the conveyor belt, thus cannot provide more inputs for facilities further down the line. In this case, facilities for this particular product needs to be built elsewhere, or in some cases, especially when huge amount of inputs are needed, for example screws and quick wires, I choose to build them locally and support their local needs rather than pulling all of them from the main bus. Let's see the example of building reinforced iron plates. When building these plates, where a huge amount of screws are needed, rather than requesting all the screws from the main bus, screws are being built alongside the reinforced iron plates facilities and are being fed into the facility to allow more production. When more space is needed to produce more variety of items, the base can be expanded either vertically or further down the main bus. And when more bus lines are needed, new lines can be added on top of the existing ones or on the side of the existing ones. I just need to make sure that between every 2 bus lines, space are left open for conveyor lifts. Following this simple concept, even the most complicated items can be produced easily. There are 2 personalizations that I made when implementing this main bus concept. The first personalization is that I separated most of the facilities that are only iron related to a separate main bus and production zone, for the reason that iron and its products are always needed in huge quantities. Rather than sending all the iron onto a single main bus and building all its facilities alongside of the main bus, I am establishing this separate zone and only sending the finishing product to the main bus for better organization and control. The second personalization is that I am building a separated zone for all the tech items that are needed in the space elevator, for the reason that these items are only needed for the space elevator and are usually closely related to each other. Putting them in a single zone is better for organization and control. This pretty much concludes everything I want to say about my base. The base is definitely still easily expandable, but as you can see, as I'm growing my base, the frame rate keeps dropping to the point that's almost not playable anymore right now. I can also spend more time improving the cosmetic and workability and some other aspects of the base. But with such a low frame rate, and me already completed the last objective for the early access, I think I will only come back to the game after a huge patch or me upgrading my computer. It's been a while since I enjoyed a game this much. I remember vividly that 400 hours ago, I built my very first starting base right next to those 2 impure iron nodes. I found a relatively flat area below those iron nodes, cut down every tree, and there was my very first spaghetti base. Not for long though, these giant rocks stopped my base from expanding, so I had to build a giant slope to be higher than all the rocks and even all the mountains, one piece at a time, without using mod and without zooping, because this is update 4. Sadly, as I'm building up, I reached the boundary of the map and was losing HP every time I step outside. I wasn't aware of the boundary of the world because the map was not unlocked until later. I have played the game Factorial before and have launched 5 rockets doing different patches, so I kind of know that I need a huge flat area for the base. So my next attempt was to start from an elevation that will not be blocked by most of the things, started from the very south of the map towards north. I didn't know I could expand it vertically though, because I played Factorial. Oh, and before this crazy expansion, I remember I was so eager to go to the top of that arc, but was afraid of dying to fall, so I built foundations one piece at a time to finally reach the top. The experience and the scenery was worth every second of it. And then I discovered the Smart Mod. With its help, I can expand the factories and the conveyor belts neatly with relative ease. My base is expanding rapidly while my production was going through the roof. My FPS was going towards single digits. Oh, I didn't mention I don't have a train system because I don't have the FPS to set up one. In terms of pure calculation, I think Satisfactory is not as hard as the game Factorial. However, in terms of putting the player into the first-person dimension while doing the calculations and designs, this is the best game I've ever played to date in 2021. And the game is still in early access. Thank you, Coffee Stain Studio, for creating this game that helped me gain a deeper understanding of logistics and promote me to procrastinate my real-life engineering work for this game. And I also thank you, the viewer, for watching this video. This is Overbeaten. I will see you next time when I see you.